Kara Reynaud, a decorated human pilot and squad leader, had always thrived on adrenaline and the promise of the unknown. This particular mission, however, had an ominous weight to it as her ship traversed the uncharted territories of space. She was tasked with a reconnaissance mission that was supposed to be straightforward, but deep down she felt uneasy. The dense silence of space was suddenly shattered as her ship's sensors blared with warnings. Laser fire streaked across the void, and Kara's fingers instinctively tightened around the controls. She quickly barked orders to her squad, but before they could react, the ship was violently jolted, sending alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. She barely registered her comrades' frantic distress calls as her ship spiraled toward an unknown planet. As the jungle loomed closer, Kara fought desperately with the controls, but the situation was dire. She crashed with a deafening roar, the impact leaving her battered and disoriented. She managed to unbuckle her harness and stumble out of the wreckage, the searing pain in her leg nearly causing her to black out. She gritted her teeth, her mind racing with survival instincts. But the darkness of the dense jungle closed in on her, making her feel small and vulnerable. Kara's survival training kicked in, and she assessed her surroundings. The dense canopy overhead blocked out most of the sunlight, casting eerie shadows around her. She spotted her survival kit, its bright orange color a stark contrast against the greens and browns of the jungle. She reached for it, but her vision blurred as pain shot through her leg. She forced herself to focus, fighting the darkness threatening to overwhelm her. Just as Kara's strength began to wane, a shadow fell over her. She looked up to see a towering figure standing above her, silhouetted against the faint light filtering through the jungle. She fumbled for her blaster, her heart pounding with fear and determination. The figure moved closer, revealing an intricate armor and a weapon that gleamed ominously. The figure knelt beside her, and Kara flinched, expecting an attack. Instead, the alien warrior gently examined her wound, his touch surprisingly tender. She caught a glimpse of his face, fierce yet kind. Before she could react, darkness overtook her, and she fell unconscious. When Kara awoke, she was in a cave, her wound cleaned and bandaged. The alien warrior sat nearby, his imposing form softened by the firelight. He spoke in a deep, resonant voice, but his words were unintelligible to her. Despite the language barrier, his actions spoke louder. He offered her water and a strange, nourishing food that revived her strength. Kara realized that she had been saved, not captured. Days passed as Kara and her alien savior, whom she came to know as Rejkor, slowly learned to communicate. Rejkor explained through gestures and rudimentary drawings that he was a Shurian warrior, and that her attackers were the Vornax, a ruthless species intent on conquest. Kara understood that her survival was now tied to Rejkor's, and that the Vornax posed a threat to both their worlds. Kara's respect for Rejkor grew as she saw his strength and honor. Despite his imposing appearance, he treated her wounds with care and shared his meager supplies. She began to see him as a comrade, and the initial fear she felt turned into admiration. Rejkor, in turn, recognized Kara's bravery and skill, and they forged an unspoken bond. Together, they prepared to face the challenges ahead, united against a common enemy. The jungle, which had seemed so hostile, now felt like a place of refuge and alliance. Kara knew the battle was far from over, but with Rejkor by her side, she felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. Kara's wound had healed enough for her to hobble around the makeshift camp that Rejkor had established in the jungle. Despite the lush canopy overhead, the environment remained harsh, with unfamiliar sounds echoing through the dense vegetation. The alien warrior, ever vigilant, kept watch, scanning the perimeter for signs of danger. Rejkor's appearance was striking. His tall, muscular frame was encased in gleaming armor that seemed both ancient and advanced, with intricate designs etched into its surface. His eyes, a deep, vibrant green, held a mix of wisdom and ferocity. Kara couldn't help but marvel at how such an imposing figure could also be so gentle. His weapon, a long, bladed staff that crackled with energy, rarely left his side. Communication between the two was difficult at first. They relied on gestures and facial expressions to convey basic ideas, but the barrier was frustrating. Kara, being a military officer, was used to clear orders and precise communication, but now she found herself using the most primitive forms of interaction. Despite the challenges, they slowly began to understand each other, using a mix of broken words and improvised sign language. One evening, Rejkor sat beside the fire, etching symbols into the dirt. Kara watched as he drew a map of the surrounding area, pointing out the position of the Vornax forces. His voice, deep and resonant, rumbled with a sense of urgency. Kara nodded, understanding that he was warning her of the Vornax patrols. She drew her own symbols, trying to explain her mission and how she ended up on this planet. Through their rudimentary communication, Kara learned more about the Shurian people. Rejkor spoke of their proud warrior tradition, emphasizing honor and strength. Kara realized that the Shurians were not only warriors, but also protectors of their land, defending it against invaders like the Vornax. She felt a kinship with them, understanding their desire to defend their home, much like humans defended Earth. As they continued their cautious communication, Rejkor showed Kara how to navigate the jungle, pointing out dangerous plants and hidden animal dens. His knowledge of the land was impressive, and Kara felt a growing respect for his survival skills. She also realized that he was protecting her not just out of duty, but also out of a growing sense of friendship. One afternoon, while gathering supplies, they encountered a deadly predator, a massive armored beast with razor-sharp claws. Kara raised her blaster, but Rejkor motioned for her to wait. With swift, precise movements, he dispatched the creature with his bladed staff, demonstrating his formidable combat skills. Kara watched in awe, her admiration for the alien warrior deepening. Despite the language barrier, Kara and Rejkor developed a routine. They would explore the jungle, seeking out Vornax patrols and avoiding danger. Kara's leg healed quickly, and she began to regain her strength. Together, they made plans to strike back at the Vornax, using Rejkor's knowledge of the terrain and Kara's military tactics. The days turned into weeks, and Kara began to feel a strange sense of belonging. The jungle, which had initially felt like an alien and hostile place, now seemed like a temporary home. Rejkor became more than an ally. He became a friend, someone she could trust and rely on. Kara knew that the battle against the Vornax was just beginning, but with Rejkor by her side, she felt ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. One evening, as they sat by the fire, Rejkor handed Kara a small, intricately carved pendant. She looked at it in surprise, recognizing the symbol of the Shurian warriors. Rejkor nodded, his expression solemn. Kara understood the gesture. It was a symbol of their alliance and friendship. She placed the pendant around her neck, feeling a surge of gratitude and determination. Together, they looked out into the jungle, ready to face whatever came next. The bond between them, forged in the fires of battle and survival, would guide them through the dangers that lay ahead. The days turned into a rhythm of survival and planning. Kara and Rejkor formed an effective partnership, complementing each other's strengths and covering each other's weaknesses. As Kara's strength returned, so did her resolve to strike back at the Vornax. Rejkor introduced Kara to the unique flora and fauna of the jungle. He showed her which plants were safe to eat and which ones provided medicinal benefits. They developed a rudimentary system of communication, using gestures and drawings to share information. The jungle, once a hostile environment, became a trove of resources. Kara appreciated Rejkor's strength and resilience. Despite his fearsome appearance, he was gentle and patient with her. She could see that his warrior spirit was tempered by a sense of duty and compassion, which resonated deeply with her own values. Rejkor, on the other hand, admired Kara's bravery and tactical acumen. He recognized in her a kindred spirit, a warrior who would stand beside him in battle. One morning, as they prepared for the day, Rejkor suddenly tensed. He gestured for Kara to stay quiet, his eyes scanning the jungle. She heard it too, a faint rustling in the underbrush. In an instant, Rejkor was on his feet, his weapon at the ready. Kara followed suit, her blaster aimed at the source of the noise. A Vornax scout emerged from the foliage, its reptilian eyes gleaming with malice. It hissed at them, baring sharp teeth, but before it could attack, Rejkor lunged forward, striking with lethal precision. The scout fell to the ground, silenced before it could raise an alarm. Kara and Rejkor exchanged a glance, both understanding the implications. The Vornax were close, and their presence posed a significant threat. They quickly moved camp, knowing that the jungle was no longer a safe haven. As they relocated, they discussed their next move. Through gestures and broken words, Rejkor explained the location of a Vornax outpost deep in the jungle. Kara's military instincts kicked in, and she formulated a plan to strike at the outpost, disrupting the Vornax operations and buying them time to escape. As they prepared for the mission, their bond grew stronger. They relied on each other for survival, and the trust between them deepened. Kara admired Rejkor's courage and strength, while he respected her tactical skills and bravery. They moved through the jungle like a well-coordinated team, each step taken with purpose and caution. The night before the attack, Kara and Rejkor sat by the fire, reviewing their plan. They communicated through gestures and drawings, each understanding the risks involved. Despite the danger, they both felt a sense of determination and purpose. Kara looked at Rejkor and saw not just an alien warrior, but a true ally and friend. The attack on the Vornax outpost was swift and brutal. Rejkor's blade flashed in the moonlight as he cut down the guards, while Kara's blaster rang out, precise and deadly. They moved through the outpost with lethal efficiency, disrupting the Vornax communications and planting explosives. The Vornax fought back, but Kara and Rejkor were a formidable team, their movements synchronized and deadly. As they escaped into the jungle, the outpost exploded behind them, a plume of fire and smoke rising into the night sky. Kara and Rejkor watched from a distance, their hearts pounding with adrenaline and triumph. They knew they had struck a significant blow against the Vornax, but they also knew the enemy would retaliate. Together, they moved deeper into the jungle, their bond stronger than ever. They had faced danger and survived, united by their shared purpose and determination. The jungle, once a place of fear and danger, now seemed like a place of refuge and strength. Kara and Rejkor knew the battle was far from over, but they also knew they would face it together. The language of survival, spoken through gestures and actions, had become a bond stronger than words. With the success of their raid on the Vornax outpost, Kara and Rejkor moved cautiously through the jungle, constantly on alert for retaliation. The dense foliage and unpredictable terrain provided cover but also hid potential dangers. The Vornax were relentless in their pursuit, sending out scouting parties to track down their elusive attackers. Kara's leg had healed significantly, allowing her to move swiftly through the jungle alongside Rejkor. The partnership they formed grew stronger as they relied on each other for survival. Rejkor, with his superior knowledge of the terrain and uncanny tracking skills, was an invaluable guide. Kara, with her sharp tactical mind and expert marksmanship, was a formidable protector. Together, they became an unstoppable force against the Vornax. One humid afternoon, as they navigated through a particularly thick part of the jungle, the telltale sounds of approaching enemies filled the air. Rejkor motioned for Kara to take cover, and they quickly hid among the thick foliage. The Vornax, 5 in number, were heavily armed and scanned the area with fierce reptilian eyes. Kara watched as the Vornax moved closer, their hissing voices carrying through the dense air. She tightened her grip on her blaster, ready to spring into action. Rejkor silently unsheathed his energy blade, his eyes focused on their enemies. With a nod, they sprang from their hiding places, launching a surprise attack. The battle was fierce and chaotic. Kara fired her blaster with precision, taking down 2 of the Vornax before they could react. Rejkor engaged the remaining enemies, his blade a blur of energy and steel. The Vornax fought back with savage ferocity, but they were no match for the skilled duo. In a matter of minutes, the jungle was silent again, the Vornax lying defeated on the ground. Kara's heart pounded as she surveyed the scene. The Vornax had been caught off guard, but she knew they would send more forces to hunt them down. She turned to Rejkor, who nodded in agreement. They needed to move quickly to avoid being surrounded. They continued their journey through the jungle, moving with renewed urgency. As night fell, they found a secluded clearing and set up a small camp. The battle had taken its toll, and they both needed rest. They sat by a small fire, eating the food they had foraged earlier. The silence of the jungle seemed almost peaceful after the chaos of the attack. Kara and Rejikor communicated through their usual mix of gestures and broken words. Despite the challenges, they had developed an intuitive understanding of each other. They spoke of their shared mission and the dangers that lay ahead. Rejkor showed Kara a map of the area, pointing out the location of the Vornax base where their leader was stationed. Kara nodded, her mind already forming a plan to strike at the heart of the enemy. The next day, as they moved through the jungle, they encountered a group of Shurian villagers. The villagers, initially wary, recognized Rejikor as a warrior of their people and welcomed him and Kara into their small community. The villagers told them of the Vornax's increasing aggression and their fears for their safety. Kara and Rejkor promised to help protect them, and the villagers provided them with supplies and information. As they prepared for their next move, Kara and Rejkor realized the depth of the bond they had formed. They were no longer just allies. They were friends and comrades in arms. The jungle, which had initially seemed like a place of danger and fear, now felt like a second home, a place where they belonged. The jungle attack had been a wake-up call, reminding them of the danger they faced, but it had also strengthened their resolve and solidified their partnership. Together, they were determined to fight back against the Vornax and protect the Shurian people. With a renewed sense of purpose, Kara and Rejkor set out towards the Vornax base, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. They knew the journey would be dangerous, but they also knew they would face it together, united in their mission and their friendship. The jungle had been their haven, but now it became a battlefield as Kara and Rejkor prepared to strike at the heart of the Vornax stronghold. The information they gathered from the Shurian villagers proved invaluable, highlighting the location of a hidden Vornax fortress deep within the dense jungle. This fortress, they learned, was not only a base but also a staging ground for further invasions. Kara and Rejkor knew that to protect the Shurian people, they had to dismantle the Vornax operations from within. They planned their assault meticulously, utilizing the knowledge of the villagers and their own combat skills. Kara's military training came to the forefront as she sketched out strategies on the ground, using twigs and leaves to represent troops and defenses. Rejkor watched, his eyes gleaming with admiration and understanding. He offered insights about the fortress, based on his own reconnaissance, and together they formulated a plan that relied on speed, stealth, and surprise. As night fell, they moved towards the fortress, cloaked in darkness. The fortress loomed ahead, a massive structure built into the side of a jagged cliff. Its walls were lined with sentries, and bright spotlights scanned the surrounding jungle. Kara and Rejkor moved with silent precision, blending into the shadows as they approached the fortress's outer defenses. The first obstacle was the perimeter guards, a group of Vornax soldiers armed with energy rifles. Kara and Rejkor worked in tandem, silently taking down the guards one by one. The sound of the jungle masked their movements, and they soon reached the main gate. Using a device Kara had salvaged from her ship, they bypassed the security system and slipped inside. The interior of the fortress was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, filled with Vornax soldiers and equipment. Kara and Rejkor moved swiftly through the hallways, disabling systems and planting explosives at key points. Their goal was to cripple the fortress's communications and power, leaving it vulnerable to attack. As they reached the central command room, they encountered heavy resistance. A squad of elite Vornax soldiers blocked their path, wielding advanced weapons and armor. The ensuing battle was fierce, with energy blasts and blades clashing in the confined space. Kara and Rejkor fought side by side, their movements synchronized and deadly. Despite the Vornax's advanced technology, they were no match for the determination and skill of the two warriors. In the chaos, an alarm sounded, alerting the entire fortress to their presence. Kara and Rejkor pushed forward, determined to complete their mission. They fought their way to the command room and engaged the Vornax commander, a towering brute with a scarred face and cold, calculating eyes. The commander challenged Rejkor to a duel, and the two warriors clashed in a brutal fight. The duel was a test of strength and skill. The Vornak's commander was a formidable opponent, but Rezhkor's agility and precision gave him the edge. As they fought, Kara defended the room, holding off incoming Vornak soldiers with precise blaster fire. The room shook with the intensity of the battle, but eventually Rezhkor delivered a decisive blow, defeating the commander. With the commander defeated, they quickly set the explosives and made their escape. The fortress erupted in chaos as the explosives detonated, sending plumes of smoke and fire into the night sky. Kara and Rezhkor barely escaped, sprinting through the jungle as the fortress crumbled behind them. They collapsed in a clearing, breathing heavily but filled with a sense of triumph and relief. The destruction of the fortress was a significant blow to the Vornaks, and Kara and Rezhkor knew it would buy them time. They returned to the Shurian village, where the villagers greeted them as heroes. Kara felt a sense of accomplishment and pride, knowing that they had protected the villagers and struck back at the enemy. That night, as they sat around the fire with the villagers, Kara and Rezhkor reflected on their journey. They knew the fight was not over, but they also knew they had taken a crucial step towards victory. The fortress of the Vornaks was no more, and their partnership had proven to be a powerful force against their enemies. Together, they looked towards the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Kara and Rezhkor returned to the village as heroes, but their victory was short-lived. The Vornaks, enraged by the destruction of their fortress, swiftly retaliated. The villagers, who had briefly celebrated their survival, now prepared for a brutal counterattack. Tension filled the air as the Shurian warriors gathered in the village square, discussing strategies and fortifying their defenses. Rezhkor, a natural leader among his people, stood at the forefront of the preparations. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the village as he gave instructions and rallied the warriors. Kara, too, played her part, using her military experience to help organize the villagers and set traps around the perimeter. The bond between Kara and Rezhkor had grown even stronger, solidified by their shared experiences and mutual respect. As the sun set, the village was transformed into a fortress, with barricades, hidden traps, and armed warriors ready to defend their home. The atmosphere was tense but resolute, with every villager determined to protect their land and families. Kara and Rezhkor took their positions, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the approaching Vornaks. The attack came in the dead of night. The jungle erupted with the sound of Vornaks' war cries as the enemy swarmed toward the village. The Shurians, prepared for the onslaught, fought back fiercely. The clash of weapons and the cries of battle filled the air as the two sides engaged in a brutal conflict. Kara moved through the battlefield with precision and determination. Her blaster fired with deadly accuracy, taking down Vornak's soldiers who broke through the village defenses. Rezhkor fought beside her, his energy blade a blur of light as he cut down enemies with swift, powerful strikes. Together, they moved like a well-oiled machine, covering each other's backs and pushing the Vornak's forces back. In the midst of the chaos, a towering Vornak's commander appeared, his armor gleaming under the moonlight. He roared a challenge, pointing directly at Rezhkor. The battlefield seemed to pause as the two warriors faced each other, a silent understanding passing between them. The commander, a hulking brute with scarred scales and fiery red eyes, brandished a massive sword ready for a fight to the death. Rezhkor stepped forward, his energy blade humming with power. The duel that followed was intense and brutal, with the two warriors clashing in a dance of strength and skill. The commander was strong, but Rezhkor was agile and precise. They traded blows, the sound of their weapons echoing through the jungle as they fought with all their might. Kara watched anxiously, her heart pounding as she defended the village from the remaining Vornak soldiers. She knew the outcome of the duel would determine the fate of the village. Rezhkor fought with the determination of a true warrior, his movements fluid and powerful. The commander, however, was relentless, and the duel seemed evenly matched. As the fight dragged on, Rezhkor's superior agility began to give him the upper hand. With a final, powerful strike, he disarmed the commander and delivered a decisive blow, ending the duel. The Vornak soldiers, seeing their leader fall, retreated in disarray, leaving the village in peace. The Shurian warriors cheered as the remaining Vornax fled into the jungle, their victory secured. The village erupted in celebration as the threat of the Vornax diminished. Kara and Rejkor, exhausted but victorious, were hailed as heroes. The villagers celebrated their bravery, and the atmosphere was filled with relief and joy. The bond between Kara and Rejkor had been tested and proven unbreakable, forged in the fires of battle and strengthened by their shared determination. As the celebration continued, Kara and Rejkor sat quietly, reflecting on their journey. The duel had been a turning point, a moment that solidified their partnership and their commitment to protecting the village. They knew the fight was not over, but for now, they allowed themselves a moment of peace and rest, knowing they had faced a formidable enemy and emerged victorious. The night sky was filled with stars as Kara and Rejkor looked out into the jungle, united in their mission and their friendship. The duel had tested their resolve, but they had proven themselves as true warriors, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The village celebrated its victory over the Vornax, but the reprieve was short-lived. Scouts reported that the enemy was regrouping for a final massive assault. The Vornax, humiliated by their defeat, were determined to annihilate the Shurian village and its defenders. Kara and Rejkor knew that the next battle would be decisive, and they prepared for it with a grim resolve. The villagers fortified their defenses, turning the village into a fortress. Kara used her military experience to organize the defenses, setting up barricades and positioning archers in strategic locations. Rejkor, ever the leader, rallied his warriors and inspired the villagers with speeches of bravery and resilience. The atmosphere was tense but determined, as everyone knew that this battle would decide their fate. As dawn approached, the Vornax launched their attack. The jungle seemed to come alive with the sounds of battle as the enemy charged toward the village, their war cries echoing through the trees. The Shurian warriors stood ready, their weapons gleaming in the early light. Kara and Rejkor stood at the forefront, ready to face the onslaught. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Vornax attacked with overwhelming force, their soldiers pouring into the village like a tidal wave. The Shurians fought back bravely, their weapons clashing against the enemy's armor. The air was filled with the sounds of battle, as the two sides clashed in a brutal fight for survival. Kara moved through the battlefield with precision and determination. Her blaster fired with deadly accuracy, taking down Vornax soldiers as they breached the village defenses. Rejkor fought beside her, his energy blade a blur of light as he cut down enemies with powerful strikes. Together, they formed a formidable team, covering each other's backs and pushing the Vornax forces back. Despite their efforts, the Vornax continued to press forward, their sheer numbers overwhelming the village defenses. The Shurians fought valiantly, but it seemed as though the Vornax would win by sheer force of numbers. Kara and Rejkor knew they needed to act quickly to turn the tide of the battle. Kara formulated a daring plan. She knew that the Vornax leader, a ruthless general named Vorkathul, was directing the attack from a nearby command post. She proposed a risky assault on the command post, hoping to kill Vorkathul and throw the Vornax forces into disarray. Rejkor agreed, and they gathered a small team of warriors for the mission. The assault on the command post was swift and brutal. Kara and Rejkor moved through the jungle, using the chaos of the battle to their advantage. They fought their way to the command post, where they encountered Vorkathul and his elite guards. The fight was intense, with Vorkathul wielding a massive energy sword and bellowing orders to his soldiers. Kara and Rejkor engaged Vorkathul in a fierce duel. The general was a formidable opponent, but their combined skill and determination proved to be too much for him. With a final powerful strike, Rejkor defeated Vorkathul, ending the battle. The Vornax soldiers, leaderless and confused, retreated in disarray. The village erupted in celebration as the Vornax retreated. The villagers cheered as Kara and Rejkor returned, their victory secured. The atmosphere was filled with relief and joy as the Shurians celebrated their survival and the bravery of their defenders. Kara and Rejkor, exhausted but victorious, were hailed as heroes. The night sky was filled with stars as Kara and Rejkor reflected on their journey. The final stand had tested their resolve and proven their strength. They knew that the Vornax threat was not over, but for now, They allowed themselves a moment of peace and rest, knowing they had faced a formidable enemy and emerged victorious. Kara looked at Rezhkor and smiled, feeling a sense of pride and gratitude. They had faced the Vornax together, and their bond had grown stronger through the battles they had fought. Together, they looked toward the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The aftermath of the battle left the Shurian village in a state of chaos and triumph. The villagers worked together to clear the debris and tend to the wounded. The signs of battle were evident everywhere: broken walls, charred ground, and wounded warriors. But amidst the destruction, there was also a sense of relief and hope. Kara and Rezhkor, though victorious, were exhausted and battered from the intense fighting. Rezhkor's shoulder had been wounded during the final duel with Vorkathul, and Kara herself bore several cuts and bruises from the battle. Despite their injuries, they worked tirelessly to help the villagers recover. The Shurians expressed their gratitude, bringing food and water to their defenders and caring for the wounded with great compassion. Kara and Rezhkor, although not natives of the village, were treated like heroes and family. The villagers provided them with a secluded hut where they could rest and recover. Inside, the atmosphere was peaceful and serene, a stark contrast to the chaos of the recent battle. As they settled in, Kara looked at Rezhkor with admiration, grateful for his strength and leadership. The healing process began slowly but steadily. Kara and Rezhkor took turns caring for each other's wounds, their bond deepening through the quiet moments of shared pain and comfort. The villagers brought herbal remedies and soothing salves, which helped to ease their discomfort and speed up the healing process. Kara marveled at the natural medicine of the Shurians, which was both powerful and gentle. As they healed, Kara and Rezhkor reflected on their journey. The battle had been a turning point, not just in their fight against the Vornax, but in their relationship. They had faced great danger and emerged stronger, united by their shared experiences and mutual respect. The jungle, once a place of fear and danger, now felt like a second home, a place where they belonged. During their recovery, Kara and Rezhkor spent time exploring the village and learning more about the Shurian culture. The villagers were resilient and resourceful, rebuilding their homes and preparing for future battles. Kara admired their strength and determination, and she felt a deep connection to their warrior spirit. Rezhkor, too, felt a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that he was protecting his people and his home. One evening, as they sat by the fire, a young Shurian child approached them, holding a small, intricately carved pendant. The child handed it to Kara, smiling shyly. Kara looked at the pendant and saw that it bore the symbol of the Shurian warriors. She smiled, touched by the gesture, and placed the pendant around her neck. Rezhkor watched, his eyes gleaming with pride and affection. The village continued to heal, and the threat of the Vornax seemed to diminish. Kara and Rezhkor knew that they had dealt a significant blow to their enemy, but they also knew that the fight was not over. They spent their days planning and preparing, knowing that they needed to remain vigilant. The bond between them grew stronger as they faced each challenge together, united in their mission and their friendship. As the days turned into weeks, Kara and Rezhkor began to consider their next move. They knew they needed to contact Kara's people and alert them to the Vornax threat. The Shurians, though resilient, needed allies in the fight, and Kara was determined to bring reinforcements. Rezhkor supported her decision, knowing that they needed all the help they could get. Together, they made plans to leave the village and find a way to contact the human fleet. The villagers, though sad to see them go, understood their mission and provided them with supplies for their journey. Kara and Rezhkor, now fully healed and ready for their next challenge, set out into the jungle, their hearts filled with hope and determination. The healing process had not just been physical, but emotional as well. Kara and Rezhkor had faced great danger and emerged stronger, their bond unbreakable. As they journeyed through the jungle, they looked toward the future, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that they had each other and the strength of the Shurian people behind them. The jungle felt familiar now, a far cry from the hostile environment it had once seemed to Kara. She and Rezhkor moved with purpose, making their way through the dense underbrush toward the signal beacon they had constructed from parts salvaged from her crashed ship. It was their last hope to contact the human fleet and bring help to the Shurian people. After what felt like hours of trekking, they finally reached the beacon. The surrounding area was silent, the aftermath of the recent battle still fresh. Kara activated the beacon, sending a distress signal to any nearby human ships. She and Rejkor waited in tense anticipation, knowing that this was their best chance to secure the help they needed. Minutes stretched into an eternity as they waited, scanning the sky for any sign of approaching ships. Just as they began to lose hope, the sky shimmered with the arrival of several human fighters, followed by a large battleship. Relief washed over Kara, and she turned to Rejkor, her eyes shining with hope. The signal had been received, and help was on the way. A rescue team arrived swiftly, securing the area and escorting Kara and Rejkor to safety. The team's leader, Commander Jameson, greeted Kara warmly, his eyes widening in surprise as he saw her Shurian companion. Kara quickly explained the situation, detailing the Vornax threat and the alliance they had formed with the Shurian people. Commander Jameson listened intently, nodding in understanding. He ordered his troops to prepare for an assault on the remaining Vornax forces, vowing to protect the Shurians and eliminate the threat. Kara felt a surge of gratitude, knowing that her people were here to help. As the rescue team prepared for battle, Kara and Rejkor were escorted to the battleship, where they were given medical attention and clean clothing. The human crew marveled at Rejkor, fascinated by his appearance and intrigued by the alliance between the humans and the Shurians. Kara felt a sense of pride, knowing that their partnership had not only saved the village, but also paved the way for future alliances. Once they were rested and prepared, Kara and Rejkor joined the human forces as they launched a counterattack against the Vornax. The combined might of the humans and the Shurians overwhelmed the enemy, and the remaining Vornax forces were swiftly defeated. The village was safe, and the threat was eliminated. After the battle, the village celebrated its victory. The Shurian villagers and the human soldiers mingled, sharing stories and celebrating their newfound friendship. Kara and Rejkor were hailed as heroes, their bravery and determination having saved the village and forged an unbreakable bond between their people. As the celebration continued, Kara and Rejkor stood on the outskirts of the village watching the festivities. Kara felt a sense of contentment, knowing that they had accomplished their mission and saved the village. She turned to Rejkor, her eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. Rejkor nodded, his eyes gleaming with pride and affection. They knew that their journey was not over, but for now they could rest, knowing that they had faced great danger and emerged victorious. The jungle, once a place of fear and danger, now felt like a place of refuge and strength. The next day, Kara prepared to leave with the rescue team, promising to return and help defend the Shurian homeland from future threats. Rejkor assured her that their bond would endure and that they would always be allies. Kara smiled, her heart filled with hope and determination. As she boarded the battleship, Kara looked back at the village, knowing that her life had been forever changed by her experiences. She felt a deep sense of gratitude for the alien warrior who had saved her when she was wounded and abandoned. Together, they had faced great challenges and emerged stronger, united in their mission and their friendship. The battleship lifted off, carrying Kara away from the jungle and toward the future. She knew that her journey was not over, but she also knew that she had found a new family among the Shurians. The bond between humans and Shurians, forged in battle and strengthened by trust, would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead.